Welcome to the Literacy Ready Refresher Training for Science Unit 2, Lesson 6, Taking Notes from Video. So for an overview of Lesson 6, students are going to start out by reading Feelin 5.10, and this is the last section that all students will read, as they're going to select one of the remaining sections on DNA and biotechnology that applies best to their final projects. So whatever their project is, they'll find the one section in the last 5 sections of Feelin that most directly relates, and then they're going to take all those good strategies and reading skills that they learned over the past 2 units to be able to read this particular section independently. So this is the last one they're going to read all together, and they're going to read it using a jigsaw, and they'll do a jigsaw of the 5 steps in biotechnology. They're also going to review Cornell notes or teach it if students didn't do Science Unit 1. And they'll take notes from a biotechnology revolution video, and then they'll reflect on their experiences. So for Activity 1, they're going to be reading and annotating a multi-step process. So they'll read and annotate 5.10. And they'll do a jigsaw of the 5 steps of biotechnology, and they're going to pay particular careful attention to the terminology and vocabulary of each of the 5 steps and the corresponding diagrams. And they'll need to understand their piece and how it fits into the larger process. So even though they're going to take charge of learning one of those pieces of the 5 steps in biotechnology in depth, they're going to be responsible for knowing all 5. And as they do the second part of the jigsaw where they explain their part to the rest of their learning group, they're going to be taking notes in their academic notebook so that they have a summary of each of the 5 steps. And so here are the 5 steps. So, one group will look at chopping up the DNA, and the other one will look at amplifying, and so on and so on. So they'll take that part that explains the step that they were assigned, and not only are they listed in this sequential format here, each one has a short paragraph about it and a diagram. So this is the diagram of the first step in biotechnology, and what I like about it is not only does it go into great detail about what's going on in that particular step, but if you look at the icons at the top of the diagram, it even shows you where you are in each of the 5 steps. So it gives a lot of information for students to be able to pull it together. So as they're doing their jigsaw, you really need to encourage students to keep referring back to these diagrams so that they can really show the members of their learning groups what's going on at that particular step. So what do you need to know? So to do the jigsaw, place students into 5 working groups and circulate to be sure that students can explain their parts, and then put the students into 5 learning groups, right? 1 from each of the 5 working groups, so that each of the 5 steps is represented and students can take turns explaining the piece that they worked on in their working group, so that by the end, each group has heard from 1 member from each of the 5 working groups, and therefore have heard all the steps in biotechnology. Students are then going to move on to taking notes from video. And what do students need to do here is to take notes over a 60-minute video on the biotechnology revolution using the Cornell method of note-taking. And so if they have not done Science Unit 1, this is a good time to go back to that unit and teach the Cornell method of note-taking. There is a PowerPoint available for you on the SREB website that goes through the Cornell method, and it's also in the lesson plans from Unit 1. If they have done Unit 1, Science Unit 1, all you need to do is a review of the Cornell method and have students getting their pages ready to take notes. It's also a good idea to discuss the following note-taking tips for students taking notes from this particular video. And first is to really listen closely. And this is sometimes difficult to do with the engaging style of this video. So they not only need to listen to what's being said, but they do need to write stuff down. And sometimes students get so caught up in the video they forget to write. So it's a good idea to say in advance that we know it's a good video, we know it's engaging, but they need to listen closely and take notes as they go. It's also a good idea to get a little bit organized before they take notes, setting up their page in the Cornell method, but also leaving spaces, leave some gaps in their notes so that they can go back and fill them in during class discussion. So if they miss something, they have a place to put it. They also need to think about taking notes over the diagrams, tables, and illustrations that are throughout this video. And if they can't get down the entire diagram, they might just want to get down the title of it. So then they could go back, look in their textbook and find that particular diagram. And that only happens in a couple of places, but it's something that they want to keep their eye out for as the video goes. So this is a 60-minute video, but it may take more than one class period to watch. And that's because we want you to stop every 15 to 20 minutes to give students time to share their notes, ask questions, fill in gaps, and kind of think through what's been going on in the video so far. And not just the content of the video, but also have them reflect on the note-taking processes as they're listening to the video. And then after they watch the whole thing, have them discuss it as a class and make sure that they understand the key concepts, things like biomolecular, gene mapping, transhuman, and some of the other medical topics that came up sort of at the end of the video are really important for them to think about as they think about the role of DNA and biotechnology, which is the topic that's going to take us through from here through the end of this unit. After they take notes, we'd like them to take a minute and reflect. And so ask students to respond to the questions in their academic notebook. And this is going to be homework for them. And so the questions are, based on the video you watched and the text you read, respond to the following questions. Why might a scientist want to modify organisms? What are the current concerns and advancements in biotechnology? And what interests you about biotechnology? And it's the responses to these questions that are going to lead them to choosing a topic for their final project on some topic related to DNA and biotechnology, where again, they'll make a scientific poster and present it in a poster symposium session. So this is sort of their first look at what might I want to know a little bit more about in DNA and biotechnology. And it might be something that was in the video, or it might be one of the sections that are left in Phelan that's getting them just kind of interested in what they might want to think about. And that in a nutshell is lesson 6. Thanks.